and welcome to This Week in Metropolis. The transmission will begin shortly.
King P here.
And Stelio7, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Metropolis. We've been away a few weeks because poor King P has been a little under the weather, but we're back and we've got lots of stories and topics to discuss.
And I've got a slightly sexy voice. It's the outcome of all of this.
Indeed. Let's talk about it, Matt. The main story from the last 2 weeks, which is we've been waiting to talk about on here, is Avengers End Game. I saw it the first weekend that it was out. You saw it the first week it was out
first weekend as well.
And I also saw it again for the second time last night, so Tuesday evening. And I must say, my thoughts on it second time round are a lot better than it was the first. And that's not to say that I didn't enjoy it the first time round.
Just to highlight that though, I sent you a message and said, what was it like? Because you saw it before I did. And what was your response? It was okay or something like that. I can't remember.
It was decent.
Decent, that was it. It was decent. And, for a film that 10 years in the making, the storyline is built up to this point, and everyone's really excited about going to see it. And then, my heart sank when I heard it was decent.
Yeah. I from initial viewing, and I stand by what I said off the first one, I still prefer Infinity War because of, the emotion at the end. And that's not to say there wasn't any in End Game, but the way that it ended in Infinity War was, it was traumatic. To see that many.
It was worst case scenario.
Yeah,
in a way, wasn't it? Most films you think it's going to be all right, and then in reality, it's not all right.
Yeah, and we all knew that they were going to find a way to bring a lot of these characters back one way or another. But I think for me, a few of the questionable things that I found from Endgame were things like the amount of jokes that we used. I mean, I compare it a little bit to Deadpool 2, which for me, again, the first Deadpool was amazing because the jokes were tied in really well and it wasn't over the top. And I felt then again in Deadpool 2 that they almost done too many jokes and tried to force it down your throat a little bit. With Endgame, I felt the jokes, I'm not saying don't have any jokes in it, but for me, it felt the tone that Infinity War had set, it didn't need to have that many. And although it started off pretty harsh with Hawkeye, obviously losing his whole family, then we kind of move into some of the other parts, and there was just jokes in there. I'm still a little bit unsure about what happened with Thor.
Yeah.
He turned into a bit of a loser and a bit of a joke, which, I know it's all storyline, and I don't know how closely that's tied with the comics because I've not followed the comic books themselves. But as funny as it was, and I must admit, second time round, I found myself laughing a lot more. I guess because I knew what to expect, but I also found the emotion of it watching it the second time, knowing what happened, a lot more, a lot more intense. Especially when Iron Man dies towards the end. Spoiler alert. He, that was quite hard watching it second time round. And a lot of the things that I thought were a bit laughable in the first one, I must admit, second time round, I was like, what, actually, like Captain America being worthy of Thor's hammer. At first I was like, how does that even work? But this time round, I actually really enjoyed that moment where he first summoned it. I questioned actually with friend of mine, Mark, who you know as well, Matt. I questioned with him. I liked the hammer bit, but how can he summon thunder as well? Which is like,
Yeah.
surely that's the god of thunder. So what does that even mean? Like,
Yeah.
so is Captain America? That's
Or
another
is it
thing.
that maybe my ignorance, is it the hammer that summons the
Well,
lightning and the thunder and so on,
he
rather than
said
the person?
that was his response, but he also said that Thor could summon the thunder as well because
Right.
he's god of thunder. But the hammer also could. It's just a bit. See, for me, there's a few blurred lines there that I'm a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, watching it again, the moment between Spider-Man when he first come back into it and him and Tony Stark, and he's explaining to him, and Tony just hugged him.
Yeah.
That kind of got me this time round.
Touching,
Where the first
isn't
time round, yeah, thought, come on, there's a battle going on here. But second time round, I think it was a lot to take in first time round as well. And I think now I've seen it again, second time, I kind of saw little things that I probably missed first time, and thoroughly enjoyed it. But what were your thoughts on it then?
I think I agree with the jokes. There was, it was almost a bit. I think they nailed the emotion and the sentiment of the loss and things like that, and that was quite a surprise for me. The way they took it as the sort of 5 years later, and people had lost hope to a certain extent. You saw Black Widow, for example, was trying to hold it together. And I said to you at the beginning when Hawkeye lost his family, I wasn't expecting that to happen. I sat there in the cinema and went, "Oh God, no!" That, without even realising it came out just the shock. And it was in a way that it was with the humour to a certain extent. It was right. We've made this really sad, serious film. We can't have it that sad. We need to stick some jokes in there, and they didn't quite fit. Whereas in Infinity War, it worked a little bit better because you had the seriousness of what Thanos was doing, and then it cut to the Guardians with Thor, for example, and there were those sort of jokes in there, and it was a bit of light relief. Whereas I found the whole tone of End Game was sad, and rightly so, because it's a sad thing, isn't it? But I liked the way they respect. I know you didn't necessarily like it the first time round. Captain America, in him getting what he wanted at the end, with his life as such, and I liked the way that Tony got to meet his father and sort of made amends with that. And they tied it up nicely. I think it was very respectful to everyone's stories, and it ended it in a way that it should. In my thoughts,
Yeah.
you're not going forward to the next film thinking, oh, what about this, or what why did that happen? It's a closed chapter now, and you're ready now. I'm watching the new Spider-Man trailer. I'm genuinely excited for that because it is that. They talk about he's talking about Tony and missing him and stuff like that, but it's very much a new beginning for everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I think what's interesting is that they have. I mean, supposedly Spider-Man Far Away From Home is the final film of Phase 3.
Right.
So, because I originally thought End Game would be the final of that and tie it all up, but this one apparently is the final one of this phase.
So how does Guardians 3 fit into it then? Because surely there'll be some sort of, well, the way Endgame finished with Thor with them, there's got to be some sort of mention, I guess,
isn't it? I think we will see Thor as part of the Guardians now, which I think is a good move. I think the chemistry that was set from Infinity War and even in Endgame at the end there, I thought was comedy gold.
Yeah.
As we said, I think the ending was good because we'd got past all the, well, not all of the sad stuff, but you know they'd won the battle basically.
Yeah.
and it's a different path for Thor to take, which is nice. But going back to what my initial point was that I was a bit concerned when I first saw that Spider-Man was going to be out in July, because I thought there's not enough time really for people to digest what's happened in Endgame. And if this is the end of a phase, then 2 months later seems really short time. But if this is actually the final film, then I get it.
Makes more sense.
It's going to be interesting to see the references we already know about. We've discussed it, and I'm sure we will on another topic when that film comes out, about the multiverse and things like that. So it looks like it is heading in different directions. My only other critique from it was there was a few different plot holes as well, which I thought, and one that was actually raised to me by another colleague of ours, was about Spider-Man himself. Not Spider-Man, sorry, Ant-Man, who'd obviously been in the quantum realm for 5 years.
Yeah.
He's come out and he hasn't aged at all. And I know he refers it as he was in there for 5 hours. I get that. But if we go back to, I believe it was Ant-Man and the Wasp, when the quantum realm was first talked about mainly, Hope's mum.
Yeah.
She came out and she was an old lady.
But she'd been in there, I guess, for argument's sake, she'd been in there since Hope was very, very young.
It was 30 years she'd been in there.
Yeah.
But then 30 years surely would relate to 30 hours.
Mm.
So how has she aged?
Yeah, that's true.
So drastically. She comes out, grey hair, old lady, probably in her 60s. Do you know what I mean? My plot holes were the ones about Captain America and how, if he's gone back and changed the past, which he has done, he's put all the stones back, but then he's changed the past. How has that not affected the future?
Yeah.
But another query to that is, someone said to me, I think it's in the comics, or it might have even been, I never watched Agent Carter, which is obviously his upper half. And apparently in that, there was something about her having a secret husband. Right, and someone said to me, could the secret, or maybe I've read this, could the secret husband have actually been the other Captain America?
All along.
Yeah, so that, I mean, if it is, great, that ties in actually. That's actually really clever writing. But a little side question here, Matt, which was given to me, is not necessarily linked about this. So the person who said this is Adam, who, again, a friend of ours, who's the writer for the Secret Protectors. We were talking about Marvel films and DC films and things like that. And one of the topics that we mentioned was about Batman, the Dark Knight trilogy, and how good that was. But his main focus was because of the writer for that, which was, remind me off the top of my head, Christopher Nolan, yeah. So, and we were talking about that and how a writer or a producer, writer or director can be a big influence on your interest in a film, because obviously the Russo brothers have done these in Avengers. Have they done all of the Avengers films, or is it just these ones?
Well, Thingy wrote it. Oh God, what's his name? The guy, this is going to annoy me. The guy who did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And who did he did loads of TV series.
Right. Okay.
Joss Whedon.
Oh, Joss Whedon. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he did the original. Didn't he do the original Avengers?
Adam was saying that, I think with what Christopher Nolan done with The Dark Knight, that's then branched off into these other films, and all of them follow a similar sort of feel to them, if that makes sense. And what I wanted to know from you is there any sort of writers, directors that you're kind of a follower of in that respect?
Generally, when I focus on films, it's probably the obvious in terms of the director and the aesthetic of it is really what I would look for.
Because I would have said you were probably like Tarantino's, a lot of his films.
Certainly. I mean, Tarantino's he's the full package, isn't he, in terms of the writing, directing that. Bringing someone in like that, for example, let's play Devil's Advocate, having him come in and do something like that'd be a crazy concept. But I think, isn't he doing Star Trek?
Tarantino,
yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that, because that may actually link to the one who I followed for quite a while, and any of his sort of work is J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, who's amazing, isn't he?
Since amazing. Lost. I mean, that again, going back to Mark, who I mentioned earlier, that's one who me and him have followed since Lost.
Yeah.
And wow, and pretty much all of his work that I've watched, I've thoroughly enjoyed. And I feel like J.J. Abrams done a Star Trek.
He did the very first one.
With Star Wars as well, isn't it?
Yeah, he did the Force Awakens, which is the first Disney Star Wars, and he's now been he's sort of a producer as such. He steers the Star Wars films to a certain degree. Today it was announced that the two guys who do Game of Thrones directors are gonna have been sort of selected for the new trilogy of Star Wars films. Wow. And I think that's a similar sort of example. And that I was talking about it today. It doesn't. I don't know. It concerns me. It's probably the wrong word. But it's Star Wars is very close to my heart, and I don't like Game of Thrones. And for me, it's almost the opposite. And I'm thinking, well, I don't really. I know they're big grand spectacles, the episodes of Game of Thrones, but what are they going to bring from their understanding of Game of Thrones and bring to Star Wars? How is that could be different? Star Wars could have dragons in it all of a sudden. That's a silly statement, but you know what I mean. How are they going to channel their expertise into that?
And I guess if you pick any of the other kind of people that we've just mentioned, someone like Christopher Nolan, how would he affect something like Star Wars? Would it then become a bit too serious?
And that's my concern with the Game of Thrones link is, it's all very serious and brooding and so on, which Star Wars is to a certain extent. But the way I'd explain it, there's always that. So there's that good path in Star Wars. It's always sort of good at overcoming evil and so on. And the light of the Jedi's in it. Would that still be there? I don't know, the charm. But I guess Disney has such an influence.
Well, that's it.
And same with Marvel. Disney are always going to have that influence down with it.
And don't forget, we've seen in our lifetime changes within Star Wars, within all the different franchises like that. And one we just mentioned, Batman. Christopher Nolan took that in a completely different path, and it came off. It could have been rubbish, and people might not have bought it. But
I think with him, though, what worked to his advantage is, even though, well, he sort of built on what Tim Burton did with Batman in that, when Tim Burton did the original one with Michael Keaton, and that was the darker Batman. Before that, people remembered Adam West in his tights, Kapow and so on. But then Christopher Nolan sort of just after the Batman films went a bit wrong. In the 90s, Christopher Nolan really sort of channeled that first film again, but made it a credible, it's a serious story as such. But it's relevant to, there's a guy called Frank Miller who did the cartoon, or did the comic books, and a lot of it is based on his writing as such. The Dark Knight, particularly, as well, one of the comic books as such. But
interesting.
But just to touch upon Tarantino doing Star Trek, just had a look. Apparently, he has pitched an idea to Paramount for Star Trek. So it's in the studio's hands now.
It's interesting to think that, with his type of films, how that would fit in a Star Trek world. But I guess it's only time will tell, and if they buy into his ideas and see what comes of it, could be Star Trek in the West.
Yeah, it'd be hilarious, I think. Anything.
or just a Pulp Fiction version. They're all.
But if you
high on
think, well, yeah, there's that potential. But if you think, I guess the comparison I'd make, think of Guardians of the Galaxy and the way that is made, and that's styled and so on, and the humour. It's not that different from a Tarantino film, where you think of, you know, the strong soundtrack, the quirky humour, the sort of anti-heroes as such. You know, they're a bit broken. The Rocket's got his terrible backstory and all those things. It's probably not that different from a Tarantino film, with those sort of things. So,
Definitely.
but moving on, one thing I wanted to bring up in regards to films, in particular, because there have been a couple of things come out. So again, since we've did the last podcast, there's a trend at the moment, in good sense and bad sense, of video games that are now being made into films. A good example, I've not seen it yet, but I can't wait to see it, is Detective Pikachu, which was a Nintendo DS game, which has now been changed into a film, with Ryan Reynolds doing the voice of Detective Pikachu and so on. And it's sort of a crime drama, and looks amazing, you know, the way they've brought Pokemon into the real world almost. But as a bad example, I don't know if you saw on the Sonic trailer, which was it's a freak show, wasn't it, really? But as a result of that trailer coming out, it's quite positive in the sense that the director has said, we're going to sort this out. You know, everyone hates it so much, we're going to sort out what Sonic looks like because we realise we've done wrong.
That's interesting because, well, I mean, because of it being CGI and all that sort of clever tech, they can do that. And I guess it's probably not that difficult in today's modern age of that sort of filmmaking stuff. But, you know, if it was, we don't like Jim Carrey as whatever the bad guy's name is.
Dr. Robotnik, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, then we can't really just edit him out. So,
well, saying that, they've done that in the past with certain actors, haven't they? You know, I think Kevin Spacey was completely erased from a film because there's controversy around him. So it's amazing what you could do that since. But I think even shortly after the Sonic trailer came out, and it just a general independent artist already came up with a concept making it look more like what you see in the game. So it's it'll be interesting to see what they do with it now. For me, the weird point was just Sonic's mouth. He had this like freaky, terrifying mouth, and this weird 10-year-old boy's body.
Legs. Yeah, it's a very strange sort of build and physique they've given him. It's very strange. But going back to your comparison, which is Pikachu, I mean, I know someone who went to see that yesterday, and positive reviews. They said if you're into Pokemon and you like that sort of thing, then really good reviews. I wasn't sure about Ryan Reynolds to start with, but the actual promotional work that he's done for it have made me think, you know what, actually he suits that role pretty much down to the ground. I think because I grew up and when watching it on telly and things like that, all Pikachu could say was Pikachu. But I get the concept of the story now that this the main character other than Pikachu can hear and understand what he's saying. You know, just normal conversation. So I think it's an interesting concept.
No, I was gonna say, saying about Pikachu talking. There's a film probably a year or so ago called was it Pokemon I Choose You? I believe it was called, and there was a big controversy in the Pokemon community because Pikachu actually talks in it. And the scene is a bit of a spoiler here, so apologies. At the end, Ash sort of almost dies, basically, and Pikachu realizes he almost is there with him. This big emotional moment, and Pikachu starts talking in English, basically. It's very heartfelt, but I think a lot of the fans were, "Oh my God,
Yeah.
where's Pika?" and
Yeah.
so on. But my question really was because there is one more film which I won't say at the moment, but are there any films or any games that you've played or you like that you think would potentially be good as a film?
Well, with my vast gaming,
Like Football
input,
Manager, for
football,
example.
football manager the game, FIFA the game. No, but games that I have played. I mean, Gears of War. I've
Yeah,
mentioned that to you before. I think that would actually be a decent because the story's in that. I mean, the
John
problem is now.
Cena, The Rock,
uh,
done. Yeah.
um, the problem I've got is a lot of films. I mean, I've got the Last of Us
Yeah,
on PlayStation 4.
which is meant to be incredible.
It's an incredible game, but
Yeah,
there's a story behind it. So
yeah,
how do you then just replay that into real life version? I mean, they're so detailed now.
yeah,
Metal Gear Solid, absolute legend of a game.
yeah.
Um,
I'm
I think
surprised they haven't done
there
that
were
one already.
rumours.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there were rumours they were going to do that. But then if we go back to the classics from when we were younger, Street Fighter,
Well, they
um,
already did a Street Fighter, didn't they, in the 90s, I think,
with
which
Kylie Minogue.
I don't
Is
know
that
because Cammy wasn't she or
that's
something.
it? Yeah, yeah.
And oh, what was his
Jean-Claude
name?
Van Damme.
Yes, and the guy out of Adam's Family, who played um, I can't remember his name. He had a moustache in Adam's Family.
Oh,
He
the
he
dad.
yeah, he
Yeah, I
was
can't
in it.
remember.
He was M Bison, I think, wasn't he? But anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
But I
So
think,
we've seen that. I mean, Mortal Kombat. That was another one. That I think that was actually pretty decent. Mortal Kombat, if
well,
memory
it's
serves
funny
me
you
right.
mention that because Mortal Kombat is actually being remade as a film. That was the other one that was announced this week that it's going to be done, and it's going to have the guy who directed Aquaman. And also Fast and the Furious 7, apparently he did, but he's been earmarked for this particular film.
Yeah.
But
Oh, the first one of that came out. I can't remember if there was any big stars that were in it, but it was.
I don't
I,
remember it.
I do remember it being pretty good because I think at the time you had the animated version of Street Fighter 2, which was the
It's an
main version,
awesome
which was
film. Yeah,
incredible. You also had an animated version of Mortal Kombat movie, which wasn't that great, and then you flipped it for the live action ones because Street
yeah,
Fighter was rubbish, really, wasn't it? And
yeah.
then Mortal Kombat was pretty decent, but they never went anywhere with it afterwards. But I mean, that was years ago. I'm talking like 15, 20 years ago now. So nowadays, we've mentioned it earlier, but the way movies are made now, they in green screen and stuff like that. And if
Yeah.
it's a Fast and the Furious guy involved, then
The
who
thing
knows?
the thing I find weird though with that is, as you said, with films like games that now have such a strong storyline, have such a strong narrative, they are almost films in themselves. And even like Grand Theft Auto and the newer ones of those, how strong the storyline is and the whole cinematic feel of it. Why don't they pick a game like that to make a film out of, instead of Mortal Kombat, which is basically just people beating each other up? And I know things like Street Fighter and I guess Mortal Kombat as well have, the character has a particular backstory,
Yeah,
but surely you're making life harder for yourself, aren't you? It'd be like I don't know, making. I'm trying to think of really terrible example. Well, saying that they made Angry Birds the movie, didn't they?
yeah,
So yeah, that's a prime example of a cash in where you think, oh, we're just gonna try and squeeze a story out of this one, but
yeah, exactly.
people
What I
still
thought
see it.
what I thought you was going to mention is to do with Netflix have come out. I don't know the article word for word, but basically that they're going to be going into the market of turning some of their original shows
Right.
into games.
Oh, really? Like what?
Yeah.
Oh, Stranger
Um,
Things. Haven't they done
Stranger Things is one of them.
one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of the ones that was mentioned. When I first saw the article, though, I thought it meant they were going down this line because they've got a lot now. I want to say two or three.
Loads of them.
Yeah. They are going down a route now where they're turning a lot of their shows into interactive shows.
Is there, I heard about that Bandersnatch
Yeah,
one where you
Bandersnatch,
could
yeah.
choose the own path as such.
Yeah, and I want to say, is that linked to Black Mirror, or have I made that up? Maybe
No,
Black
it's
Mirror is a
a
different one.
different thing, yeah.
I feel like Black Mirror as well, and there's another show on there at the moment where you choose the path that you go down, and I thought it was to do with that, but it's not. But I thought that is quite an interesting concept of doing this whole you choose your path. But
Yeah.
I don't know, when I sit down to watch a TV show or a movie, I just want to watch it from start to finish. I don't
Yeah.
want to have to be involved in it. I
Yeah.
don't know about you, but for me, that's, I want to sit down, relax, enjoy it, be gripped by it, not like, oh, which way do I turn, left or right? I don't.
I was just gonna say, I used to love, what they're based on. I used to love the Choose Your Own Adventure books. I don't know if you ever
Yeah,
read those.
yeah, I had them.
Whereas,
Yeah.
if you want to do this, turn to page 40, you'd go to the page. But I
Yeah.
think watching a TV program or a film, I think I'd get a bit of OCD now. I think, but what if I hadn't done that? I want to know. I want to know the other ending.
Watch it all again.
I've got to watch it again and choose something else, so I see that ending. So yeah.
Well, and the problem is, you'd probably, if you wanted to find out all the different options, you'd then start skipping through, wouldn't you? I've seen this bit, skip to the next bit, get to that question, then watch another thing, and then it's all a bit kind of distorted anyway. So, and you've probably already forgotten what happened or what way did I turn on this part, and how many different times. But the books, I agree, they used to be really good. I used to enjoy them when I think when I was at school, maybe late teens, maybe they started coming out, and we was reading them. Yeah, they were really good. Well, my next topic is also, I'm not moving away from movies at the moment, is a reveal, because the John Wick movies have been talked about a lot. John Wick 3, I've not seen any of them.
Neither have I. I haven't seen it, the thing.
I saw an interview with Keanu Reeves last week, and he was talking about it, and I thought, this sounds actually quite interesting. Why haven't I watched this? Maybe I thought it was a bit weird at first when I first
because
saw
he
it.
has Keanu Reeves in it, probably.
Well, no, I do like Keanu Reeves, but he's a bit particular, isn't he? And
he plays the same role in most films, I think. And some fit and some don't. Yeah, I'll tell you, he's got two. Yeah, he's got the moody one, and he's got Bill and Ted, and there is two. Two things.
Well, he's talking about John Wick, and then I was speaking to a friend about it, and I asked for his opinion, because my initial opinion is it looks decent, but it's a little bit weird. And he said, I've seen the first one. He said, that's a spot on, assumption to make.
What's the plot?
What it is.
Yeah, because I don't even know what it's about.
The plot here is that there's something about, I want to say his wife gets killed, and then she leaves him a dog.
Nice.
And then someone kills the dog.
Oh no.
And this all happens like within the first 10 minutes, I think, of the first one. He gets another dog, and then they just go around killing people, I think. Something like that. He fights these armies. Anyway, so whilst looking up more information on it and trying to see whether it is something I want to look into and get invested in, big news revealed by the writer.
I think I know what you're going to say now, yeah. Is
that he's actually going to be doing Matrix 4.
Yes.
And is it the Wachowski brothers who done? Did they do all three?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're on board. And apparently, Keanu Reeves said he would only get involved again with the Matrix franchise if they were involved or if they were writing it. So apparently, it's got the green light, and that's actually happening.
But didn't they come out afterwards and say no, it isn't?
Oh, I don't know. Well, this news only dropped a couple of days ago, so
yeah.
I don't know whether you've seen more. But I mean, when I saw it, I was thinking. I mean, I loved the first Matrix, and we only spoke about this the other day. I love the Matrix. Obviously, the second one was okay. The third one for me was a real disappointment.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I remember seeing them. Well, for the first one when it came out was, I know, just mind blowing, and it was I don't know if you remember, it was one of the first films to come out on DVD that took advantage of all the multi-angle and all that business, and the special effects, which is mind blowing. The bullet time and all of that sort of stuff were incredible. And I remember when the second and third came out, so they came out really close, didn't they? I think you saw one and then like months later or whatever. Quite like in the second, because there's that scene where, is it Trinity or Neo? I can't remember. Are fighting all the Agent Smiths. There's loads of them and all coming in.
Yeah.
Then the third one just got lost in itself, I think, didn't it? It was far too what's the word? I don't know.
Like you say, it just got too involved. I think.
Yeah, took itself a little bit too serious.
Yeah, it needed to keep it a bit more simple along the lines of where it was going anyway.
Yeah.
Then I think because it added other elements into it, you had stuff going on where the actual Matrix.
Yeah.
Like,
we need to find the Keymaster and all of this sort of stuff, wasn't it?
And it took a while. I mean, like you say, I think the first one was like mind bending and amazing all in the same.
It was so original, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It interests me.
When was that out? Was it like 99 or something like that?
I think so. Yeah. So it's a long while ago now. It'd be interesting if they do a full when they take it. You know, would it be an origin or will it be a continuation?
Yeah.
Yeah. Neo's settled down, and they've sorted the Matrix out, and he's just a family man. Yeah. I don't know.
He's still got a banana phone.
Yeah, so it's still got his Nokia 8800 or whatever it was. Can't remember 8110.
They were awesome.
They were awesome phones. But yeah, it's exciting if they do it. It would worry me. I know it's for me in two minds. What they could do now with special effects versus what they did before. So they invented so much stuff to do what they did in the Matrix. The original one would be amazing, but then part of me would be, it'd feel a bit like when they made the fourth Indiana Jones film, the Crystal Skull. And I was quite excited for it. Wow, it's Harrison Ford's back, and I think Spielberg and that were involved again. Wow, this could be brilliant. And then you see a really old man still trying to be. I think Harrison Ford got away with it with being Han Solo in the new Star Wars films, but because he was an old Han Solo, but Indiana Jones is some old dude with a lasso trying to run around, and that it's a bit. So I'd hate the Matrix, a new Matrix, to be like that. You just, I don't know, having all your dreams shattered by seeing this thing.
I guess with Keanu Reeves, I think he's just turned 50. I think.
He still looks good for it though, doesn't he?
And he still looks good for it, and he's still obviously doing these action movies. So it's not too big a jump for him. But I do always get a bit worried when such a long period of time has passed between sequels and prequels and things like that. So to do it now, like you say, it could rewrite a lot of the wrongs that they probably done in the third one, a little bit of the second, or it could actually ruin it altogether a bit. We've seen a lot of films where they try and do this. I mean, people are a bit worried about Bill and Ted doing the same sort of thing, and that's even longer. So
that's a real concern, because the two main characters are literally 30 years older than they were before.
Yeah.
But I guess if you think us talking about the comparison, I guess I'd make with the Matrix is Blade Runner came out in 1982, I want to say, something like that. And then they did the one a couple of years ago, didn't they? Blade Runner 2049, I think it was called, which Ryan Gosling then was the main character, and Harrison Ford played sort of a part in it. I think that was quite well received. I watched about half of it, was bored out of my mind. I'll be honest watching that. And Blade Runner is probably my favourite film, if not one of my favourite films. Visually, the new one looked beautiful, but yeah, you know what Ryan Gosling's like. He just walks around looking a bit moody. Yeah, that's it, you know. Oh, yeah. Oh, says, mumbles a word and then just walks off somewhere.
Face like a horse.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly, that's the whole film. Look,
that's
nice,
his
though.
happy face.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he is good. He is a good actor, but
yes. I don't know.
Just in case he's listening.
Yeah, that's it. We love you, Ryan. Well, I think we've covered all bases with the movie world in this episode, really, and lots to look forward to in the coming year. So yeah, thank you for listening, and as always, check us out on all the different platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, and yeah, we will be back for another episode.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Transmission over.